So you are able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay then, fine. So in the last class, we discussed regarding number of problems. Okay, so we tried to solve using different techniques for AC circuits. So we have seen nodal analysis method, mesh analysis, and superposition theorem, and Thevenin's theorem also. Okay, so this is what we have discussed in the last class. So we tried to find out the Thevenin's equivalent. Right. So we tried to find out the Thevenin's equivalent, and then we found out the current I12 flowing through this minus J10 ohms impedance, and after that we started finding the voltage V1 in the actual circuit. Okay. Right. So this problem, is it clear to everyone? How to do this finding voltage V1 also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So or anyone is having doubt with regard to this? I mean, up to this point you may be fine, but this current, finding current I1. So to find I1, you have to apply KCL. You know the source current. So 1 at an angle of 0 degrees is there, and I12 is this one we have calculated, 0.67 at an angle of 26.5. Okay. So if you simply apply KCL at node 1, you can calculate I1. So once you know I1, you know the impedance and you know I1. So multiply those two to get the voltage V1 at node 1 with respect to reference. Okay, that's what we have discussed. So this, since we have considered the same problem, we have solved this using nodal analysis. We have solved this using applying superposition theorem and using Thevenin's theorem. So in all the three cases, if you cross check, the voltage V1 which we have got now here will be the same. Okay, since it's the same circuit. Okay, so you can apply any method for solving your problem. Okay, so some methods will have advantage with regards to circuit. Okay, so based on practice you will understand which one is better. Okay, but we can solve using all the methods. Okay, so let's go ahead with our discussion. So we have seen what is called as a phasor and how to apply using different techniques. These phasors are used in the circuit, and we have applied different techniques to solve or to analyze our circuit. Okay, now we'll briefly go through the phasor diagram. Okay, since all the quantities are, whether it's a voltage or a current in your circuit, these all are phasors. Okay, so we have seen that. Okay, so all these phasors can be drawn on a graph. Okay, so that is called as basically phasor diagram. Anyway, we will see that the phasor diagram is a name given to a sketch in the complex plane showing the relationships of phasor voltages and phasor currents throughout a specific circuit. Okay, so if you have any circuit and using the different methods you have calculated voltages and currents in different parts of the circuit. So all these phasor voltages and currents can be drawn on a complex plane. Okay, right. So that means you will have the clear cut relationship between the phase angles of different parameters within the circuit. Okay, so phasor voltages and currents are complex numbers. They also be identified as points in the complex plane. So we can represent as a point or a with an arrow like this. Okay, so for example, I have given here phasor voltage V1 is equal to 6 plus J8 in rectangular form. The equivalent polar form is also shown. Okay, so if you are plotting that on the complex plane, so you will have real axis, horizontal one, and vertical axis you will consider the imaginary axis. Okay, so you can plot this voltage V1 which is a phasor on this complex plane. Okay, so it will be 10 at an angle of 53.01 degrees. Okay, so that's why it was shown here. Okay, with 10 at an angle of 53.1 degrees. Okay, multiplication and division results in addition and subtraction of angles and a change in amplitude. That is obvious, right? We have already seen when you are multiplying two phasors or addition or division, whatever you are doing, obviously magnitude is going to be changed and the phase angle will also be changed. Okay, right. One more point is phasor diagram offers an interesting interpretation of the time domain to frequency domain transformation. Okay, so if you observe, we are actually having a time domain function, whether it's a voltage or current or whatever it may be. We have intentionally converted into a phasor form. That means first to a complex form, and after that e power j omega t we have not shown, and we have converted into an equivalent polar form, which is called as a phasor. That means time domain quantity and phasor representation both are actually having the same data, same information they are having. Okay, so both are identical. Okay, only thing the way you represent, you are going to change. Okay, right. So the phasor diagram offers an interesting interpretation of the time domain to frequency domain transformation. Okay, so we can convert a time domain thing into an equivalent frequency domain, which is called as a phasor, or you can do the opposite also. So just this is for your understanding. Okay, let's see. Let us proceed to the time domain viewpoint from the phasor diagram. So here I will try to draw one phasor diagram, and if the time domain equivalent is also drawn on the phasor diagram, so what is the correlation, or how, what is the thing that we'll understand. Okay, so in order to transform, let's say this is your phasor, V bar is equals to Vm at an angle of alpha. This is in phasor domain. I want to transfer it to time domain. So what you have to do, the next necessary step is to multiply with e power j omega t, because e power j omega t is present in your function. Okay, complex function. So first you multiply the phasor with e power j omega t. Okay, then what happens? This will be your expression, right? Vm e power j alpha, because alpha is coming from the phasor, and e power j omega t is already present in the circuit with respect to source. So if you write this one also in the form of phasor, you are going to get Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha. Okay, right. Now we will plot Vm at an angle of alpha on the phasor diagram and Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha also on the phasor diagram, and see. This voltage may be interpreted as a phasor, this one, Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha, if you are interpreting as a phasor. Okay, one which possesses a phase angle that increases linearly with time. Okay, on a phasor diagram, it therefore represents a rotating line segment, the instantaneous position being omega t radians ahead of Vm at an angle of alpha. That is obvious, right? When you see Vm at an angle of alpha, it is a phasor which is lying on the complex plane at an angle of alpha with respect to your x-axis or horizontal axis. Okay. When you have Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha, since omega t is there, so with respect to time, this phasor is going to rotate. Okay. Omega is the angular frequency, and with respect to time, this phasor is going to rotate in anti-clockwise direction, because always phasors rotate in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, so that is a standard. So phasors always rotate in anti-clockwise direction. So if you see here, we have drawn the phasor diagram for Vm at an angle of alpha here, and we have also drawn the phasor diagram for Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha. Okay, so if you see here, so this Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha will keep on rotating. With respect to time, it will keep on rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay, right. So at different instance of time, this vector, this phasor will be at different positions in the anti-clockwise direction, keep on rotating. Okay, so so this is the phasor diagram if you consider Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha into account. Okay, so what it means is the passage to the time domain is now completed by taking the real part of Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha. The real part of this complex quantity is the projection of Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha on the real axis, which is nothing but Vm cos of omega t plus phi. So that means if you have plotted Vm at an angle of omega t plus alpha on the phasor diagram with respect to t, this phasor keeps on rotating, and the projection of this phasor onto the real axis is nothing but your time domain value. Correct now? So the projection of this phasor onto the real axis is nothing but Vm cos of omega t plus alpha. Okay, right. So the projection of this one onto the real axis is nothing but your real part, which is equal to your time domain function. Okay, clear. So that means at different instance of time, your real part will have different amplitudes. Okay, right. During the first quarter, it will have something in this real axis. During the second quarter, when it is rotating, it will have some negative value. Okay, so that means the real part will be varying like this. It's basically the projection of this phasor onto the real axis. Okay, so this is just for your understanding the relation between the phasor and the time domain quantity. Okay, the phasor projection onto the real axis is nothing but your time domain equivalent value. Okay, so I hope this is clear for you. Okay, this is for your understanding. Okay, or anyone has doubt in this?
No, sir.
Okay, okay then. So we have already seen how to solve different problems. So we'll go through this simple problem and draw the phasor diagram maybe. Okay. So phasor diagram of series RLC circuit. So this is one circuit we are considering. You have R, L, and C. Okay. So always, if you want to represent voltage, you should represent with polarity. Okay. So the voltage polarity and voltage representation for across different elements is also shown in this figure. And current is considered as I. Since it's a series circuit, it's going to flow in that direction. Okay. So to draw the phasor diagram for the given circuit variables, we should first choose one quantity as a reference phasor. Okay. Always when you are drawing the phasor diagram for any circuit, there should be one reference quantity. Okay, it could be a voltage or it could be a current, it is your choice. Okay, so but one reference should be there. So with respect to that reference, we will calculate different parameters, voltages and currents. Okay, you will get the phasor values, and accordingly you will draw the phasor diagram. If there is some phase shift plus 90, so you will shift plus 90 degrees with respect to that reference already chosen. Okay, so that is how you have to draw your phasor diagram, and phasors always rotate in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, so plus 90 means you have to shift plus 90 degrees in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay, considering current as the reference phasor, which is given as I is equals to Im at an angle of 0 degrees, and placing it on the real axis. That means I am considering current phasor as my reference phasor. Okay, so then I will calculate the voltages or whatever within the circuit with respect to that reference, and I will plot the phasor diagram. The resistor, inductor, and capacitor voltages may be calculated and placed in the diagram, where the 90 degrees phase relationship stands out clearly. Okay, so let's see that. So this is your current reference. What will be the voltage across the resistor? VR is equals to I into simply R. R is a constant. Okay, so if you do that, what is going to happen? The voltage across the resistor will be Im into R at an angle of 0 degrees. Okay, since I has a phase angle of 0 degrees, so same 0 degrees is coming here because resistance does not have any phase angle. It's a constant. So that means your current and the voltage across the resistor are expected to be in phase. Okay, they are lying one over the other if you draw the phasor diagram. Okay, similarly, if you see the voltage across the inductor, we have already seen how to calculate. V is equals to J into omega into L into I. Okay, so I is Im at an angle of 0 degrees, J omega L. Okay, it's a complex number. If you are converting into polar form, it will be omega L at an angle of 90 degrees. Okay, so plus J you will get plus 90 degrees. So what is the overall phase angle? You will get 90 plus 0, which is 90 degrees, and omega into L into Im. Okay, so that means the voltage across the inductor will be leading your reference phasor, which is the current in this case, by 90 degrees. Okay. Similarly, if you see the capacitor, voltage across the capacitor, V is equals to I by J omega C. Okay. So if you multiply with numerator and denominator with J, you are going to get minus J. So it will be 1 at an angle of minus 90 into Im at an angle of 0 degrees divided by omega C. So you'll get some amplitude with an angle of minus 90 degrees. Okay. So that means if you take your current as your reference phasor in a series RLC circuit, you are going to have voltage across the resistor in phase with your current reference. You will have voltage across the inductor will be 90 degrees leading with respect to your current reference, and voltage across the capacitor will be lagging with respect to your current reference by 90 degrees. Okay, right. So if you want to find out the sum of voltages, that means VR plus VL, it is coming in between these two. And if you want to find out voltage VR plus VC, it is coming here. Okay, right. So this is for your understanding how to draw the phasor diagram. Remember that we have taken current as your reference phasor and we have simply multiplied with the impedance. If it's an inductor, J omega L, we have simply multiplied. Since J omega L will have a phase angle of plus 90 degrees, that's why you have got voltage across the inductor with an angle of plus 90 degrees, which indicates your voltage is going to lead your current phasor by 90 degrees. Okay. This is the basic information regarding how to plot a phasor diagram. Okay. Is it clear to everyone or anyone has any doubt in this?
Yes, sir. The clear picture.
No, sir.
Clear, sir.
Clear. Any doubt?
No,
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So if anyone has doubt, now ask now itself.
Sir, sir,
Yeah.
VR is equal to VS. Why we written?
VR equal to VS. Where? In previous slide.
Sir, in diagram. No, sir, in diagram. In sir
Okay.
graph.
One second. Okay. Oh, VR equal to VS, why it was written. Okay. So it's a very good question. So if you understand that, I mean, when you go to the problem, you will understand that. Okay. The voltage, since you have the inductive reactance here and the capacitive reactance here are same. Okay. in the present scenario. So the expected voltage across the inductor, let's say some X value is there. The expected voltage across the capacitor will be minus X. Okay. So they are both are going to oppose each other, as you can observe from the phasor diagram also. Okay.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So this VL exactly its amplitude is some X value, let's say, it is plus 90 degrees, and VC amplitude will be also be same because it's a series circuit and your inductive reactance and capacitive reactance are same. Okay, so these two amplitudes are same. So what does that mean is these two will cancel out each other. Okay, right. So if you apply KVL, you will observe that voltage across the inductor, let's say plus X, voltage across the capacitor will be minus X. Okay, these all are complex additions. Okay, right, and your source voltage will be exactly equal to VR. Okay, right.
Yes, sir.
You can apply KVL to this. Okay, assume current is equals to 1 at an angle of 0 degrees, let's say. Okay, so then your voltage will be 50 at an angle of plus 90. Okay, or plus J50 for VL. I am assuming IM is equals to 1, let's say. Okay, this will be plus J50, and this will be minus J50 voltage across the
Minus
capacitor. Correct, na? Okay,
Yes, sir.
because amplitude is 1 for I and phase angle is 0. Okay, so this will be plus J50 and this will be minus J50. Now if you apply KVL, your voltage source will be equals to voltage across the resistor. So Vs will be equals to VR. Okay, right. So in a series RL circuit, these two voltage across the inductor and capacitor will be opposite to each other, as you have seen in the phasor diagram. If in case their inductive reactances are equal, as you have seen here they are equal, then they will cancel out each other and the voltage across the capacitor will be directly equal to voltage across the resistor if you apply KVL. Okay, only this will happen only when you have inductive reactances across the inductor and capacitor same. Okay, the impedance value XL and XC are same, then only this will happen. Okay, right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I mean if you add these two voltages VR and VL, it will come in between these two, and VR plus VC will come here. Okay, right. So in this scenario, since the inductive reactance and capacitive reactance are equal in values, so that's the reason why you have got VR equals to VS. Okay, if they are not equal and they have some other value, accordingly VS can be somewhere on the top or bottom. Okay, right. Okay, so the question here is, we'll go to one problem. Construct the phasor diagram showing IR, IL, IC for the circuit shown below, and combining these currents, determine the angle by which IS leads IR, IC, and IX. Okay, so this is the question they have given. They have given a current source and three parallel connected elements. One is capacitor, another one is inductor, another one is resistor. Okay, so they are asking us to find out the currents IR, IL, and IC. That means current flowing through each element in the circuit. And after that, they are asking us to determine the angle by which source current is going to lead these three currents. Okay, always it is better if you are working on a parallel circuit, you better to take voltage as your reference phasor. In the previous case, it's a series circuit. It is always better to take current as your reference phasor and calculate the other parameters and plot the phasor diagram. If you are having a parallel circuit as shown now, it is always better to have voltage as your reference phasor. Okay, because the voltage across all the elements shown here will be same, and the currents may be leading or lagging based on the nature of the element. Okay, so better to have voltage as your reference phasor in this circuit. So what I am doing, I am assuming voltage reference phasor. That means voltage across the different elements. Here it was shown V bar. That means voltage across the resistor. In the question itself it was given as V bar. So I am assuming this V bar as 1 at an angle of 0 degrees. Okay. Now I will try to calculate all the currents and then plot the phasor diagram. Okay, so try to do that. IR I have already given 0.2. I mean I have already calculated 0.2 at an angle of 0 degrees I got. So try to calculate IC, IL, and then we'll calculate IX also. So calculate IC and IX. So simply voltage divided by the corresponding impedance.
Sir.
Yeah.
IC is equal to 0.3 at an angle of 90.
0.3 at an angle of 90. So 1 at an angle of 0 degrees divided by 1 by j 0.3. Okay, so 0.3 at an angle of plus 90 degrees.
90. Yes, sir. Yes.
IL is
IL equal to
0.1 at the angle of minus 90 degree.
minus 90.
Okay,
Yes.
so that is obviously expected. We are expecting inductor current to lag the voltage and the capacitor current to lead the voltage, and voltage is 1 at an angle of 0 degrees. So that seems to be right. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, so IL we got 0.1 at an angle of minus 90 degrees. IC 0.3 at an angle of plus 90 degrees. Okay, so now what else they have asked? You have calculated all these three and they are asking us to find out IX also. So what is the value of IX? Calculate that also. Simply you apply KCL at that node. IX is equals to IR plus IL.
Sir, 0.2 minus j 0.1.
0.2 minus j 0.1. Can you convert into polar form also?
Yes, sir.
Ix is equal to 0.223 at an angle of minus 26.5.
Okay, 0.223 at an angle of minus 26.5. Okay, let's see that. And then we can plot the phasor diagram for all these variables. Okay. Right. So Ix is equals to 0.223 at an angle of minus 26.5 degrees. Okay. So that is fine. Okay. So next they are asking the angle, I think. Right. So determine the angle by which IS leads IR, IC and IX. How much this current IS, source current, is going to lead with respect to this IR, IX and IC. So that's what they are asking. That means they are asking the angle difference basically and how much it is leading. So IS, what is the value of that? IS will be IX plus IC. Okay. So you have to calculate this also. So I have done that and I got IS is equals to 0.2828 at an angle of 45 degrees. Okay. Right. So now Semi, can you say how much according to the second part of the question? What is the angle by which your source current is going to lead IR, IC and IX? So what is that angle? Angle by which IS leads IR. What is that?
45 degrees.
45 degree.
45
Degrees.
Oh. Okay. So you have to compare your source current IS with your IR. So IR, if you see, it is 0.2 at an angle of 0 degrees. So IS will be leading your IR by 45 degrees. Okay. Right. Next, they have asked what is the angle by which your IS leads IC, I think so. Right. Yeah. So what is that angle? IS leads IC by how much angle?
45
Minus
degrees.
135.
45. 45.
Again, you are getting 45.
Minus 45.
No, sir, 135.
Minus 45.
Minus
So
45.
if okay, so if you see here, your IS seems to be J.3. If I am right, so I think IS seems to be J.3. So that means 0.3 at an angle of plus 90 degrees. So your IS is 0.3 at an angle of plus 90 degrees. Okay, right. But your source current seems to be 0.2828 at an angle of plus 45 degrees. So that means your capacitor current IC is ahead of your source current. Okay, so IS is lagging IC by 45 degrees, or IS is leading by this much value. You are understanding now? So first part is correct, 45 degrees. So IS now is lagging IR by 45 degrees. You can say like this. Since they have asked what is the angle by which, or you can say like this also. In terms of leading, you can say like 315 degrees. In terms of lagging, you can say it is like 45 degrees. Okay. Is it clear? So if they ask you leading, you have to write like 315 degrees. Since you can see from the values, your sorry, I have written IR here, so it should be IC. You are understanding, right? This second line which I have shown here, I have written right. So this is IC. It's my mistake. I have, it is not IR, it is IC. Second line. Okay. So IS lags IC by 45 degrees or leads by 315 degrees. Both are correct. Okay. And the last thing they have asked, what is the angle by which your IS leads IX? Okay. So your IX is minus 26.5 degrees and your IS is 45 degrees. So the difference between them is this much, 71.5 degrees. So it will lead by 71.5 degrees. Is it clear to everyone how to calculate lagging or leading?
Yes, sir.
It's simply you have calculated using phasors different parameters, and you are just checking the phase angle difference between those parameters. Okay, right. So one will be leading, one will be lagging. Okay, so according to that, you have to determine these conclusions. Okay, so for better understanding, if you plot the phasor diagram, so here I have plotted VR. VR is 0.2 at an angle of 0 degrees. So that's why it is exactly on the x-axis. Okay, on real axis. Okay. And we have seen the inductor current, which is 0.1 at an angle of minus 90. So that's why this is here. You are understanding, right? So your current IL is going to lag your actual reference phasor by 90 degrees. Okay, so that's why it is here. And if you see the capacitor current, which is 0.3 at an angle of plus 90, that means J.3, so it should be leading, so that's why it is here. Okay, right. So we have plotted IC, IL and IR. Now if you talk about IX is 0.223 at an angle of minus 26 degrees. So minus means vectors always rotate in anti-clockwise direction. If it is plus, you have to shift in this direction. That means anti-clockwise. If it is minus, you have to shift in the clockwise direction. So minus 26 degrees will be falling somewhere here. Okay, so this is your IX. Okay, right. So now if you plot IS also, IS we have seen just now, IX plus IC. So if you add this IX what you have got, and if you add this IC, okay, phasor addition, you will have somewhere in between these two, right? IC plus IX. So for the phasor should be falling somewhere here. So that's what it has fallen here, and this is your IS. Okay. So from this, we can straight away see and say which one is leading by what angle and which one is lagging also. Okay, so I hope you are clear with how to draw the phasor diagram once you have calculated the required
Yes, sir.
phasors from the circuit. Okay, is it clear to everyone or anyone has doubt in this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. It's nothing. We are simply drawing the phasors on a complex plane. That's all. Since if you are able to calculate everything properly from the methodologies what we have studied, so simply you are plotting on the phasors on the complex plane. That's all. Okay. So this is till now we have discussed it in part 1 for single phase AC circuits. Okay. What is called as impedance, what is called as a phasor. So methodologies which are almost same which we have used for DC circuits like nodal analysis, mesh analysis. Okay. And Thevenin's theorem, superposition theorem, even Norton's theorem can also be applied. Same rules, set of rules which were discussed for DC circuits are applicable for AC circuits also. Only thing is in AC circuits we are dealing with phasors. Okay, and a time domain quantity can be converted to a phasor domain and phasor domain can be converted back to a time domain. Okay, so these all things we have discussed till now. So now we will start discussing our part 2 of single phase AC circuits. So because till now we have not discussed what is called as power. Okay, so what is RMS value, what are the different types of powers that can exist in a single phase AC circuits. Okay, so this part 2 will deal with these parameters. Okay, like instantaneous power and average power. Okay, what is called as effective or RMS value of a sinusoidal quantity. Okay, quantity means it can be a current or a voltage. Okay, so what is called as effective value or RMS value, both mean the same. So we will see what is that, and we will discuss one more term called as apparent power. Okay, apparent power and power factor also. In DC circuits you will not have any power factor, but in AC circuits you will have a term called power factor. So what is that we will see, and after that we will see what is called as complex power. Okay, since all currents and voltages are complex numbers, so there is a chance that power can also be a complex, right? So what is that complex power? So that thing also we will discuss in part 2 of AC circuits. Okay, so we will go through that now. Right, so first of all, coming to instantaneous power. So we have already seen the voltage and current are functions of time. Okay, so that means they are having different values at different instants of time. Okay, voltages and currents. Obviously, the power, which is nothing but the product of voltage and current, will be also varying instantaneously with respect to time. So how to define that? The instantaneous power delivered to any device is given by the product of instantaneous voltage across the device and the instantaneous current through it, and the passive sign convention is satisfied. Okay, so if you talk about the power which was delivered to any device, you have to simply multiply the voltage across the device with the current flowing into the positive terminal of that device. Okay, so that will give you an instantaneous power. Okay, right, so you can write an expression P of t is equals to V of t into I of t. Okay, if you talk about any specific element, let's say if the device is a resistor, so what will be that? P of t is equals to V of t into I of t. This V of t is the voltage across the resistor and I of t is the current flowing into the positive terminal of that resistor. Okay, so V of t into I of t. Okay, so if you apply Ohm's law, V can be written as I into R So you get an expression I square of t into r or v square of t divided by r. Okay, so this is called as instantaneous power, which is a function of time. Okay, right. So you can use I square I square of t into r or v square of t divided by r for power drawn by the resistor. Okay. Always remember passive sign convention should be satisfied. According to that only you will get this V of t and I of t. Okay. One more element is inductor. So if you consider an inductor, okay. So P of t is equals to V of t into I of t. You know the voltage across the inductor can be given as L into derivative of I with respect to dt. Okay. So if you do that, then you will get an expression like this. Power P of t is equals to L into I of t into derivative of I with respect to dt. Okay, so this is the instantaneous power across your inductor. Obviously, even if you do deal with phasors, you can convert the voltage and current across an inductor into equivalent time domain function and place that I of t in this expression. Then you can get the instantaneous power across power delivered to the inductor. Okay, right. So similar to that, you have capacitor. So P of t is given as V of t into I of t, which is given as C into V of t into derivative of V of t with respect to dt. Okay. So these are the expressions for power across the different elements. Always remember, whenever you are calculating power, you are multiplying voltage and current. That voltage should be across the element if you're talking about element, and current flowing into that particular element. Okay. Okay, so that you should keep in mind, and always passive sign convention should be satisfied. Okay. Okay, right. So listing of powers across an element alone is not much useful. Okay, as when we deal with networks, we require power at the network terminals. Okay, so all the three expressions what I have shown here, they are the powers across the element, resistor, inductor, or capacitor. Okay, so sometimes we are interested in finding what is the power delivered from the source. Okay, or what is the power which is actually flowing into your network. Okay, so then what you have to do? You have to multiply the voltage across the network terminals with the current coming out of the network terminals. Okay, or coming or flowing into the network. Okay, into your circuit. Right. So then you will understand, I mean, what is the power which is delivered from the source. Okay. Right. Why means why we are calculating this power means because if you allow more power to flow to one particular element, there is a chance that the element can burn. Okay, because of the heat generated within the element can burn. So one should have an understanding of how much power this particular element can take, or how much power this particular element can withstand at different instants of time. Okay, so those calculations needs to be done before you build a circuit. Okay, right. So the study of these powers will give us that knowledge or idea regarding power calculation, and accordingly choose our element according to that. Okay, and we will go through that. Right. So we have seen what is called as instantaneous power. Okay. Right. There is one more thing called as average power. What it means is, for finding the average value of instantaneous power P of t, the time interval must be clearly defined. Okay. Usually instantaneous power is simply the product of voltage and current at that particular instant of time. Okay. Right. But there is some other term which is called as average power. This is more important for us than an instantaneous power. Okay, right. This average power will actually determine us how much heat it is getting generated if it's a resistor. Okay, right. So average power is more important than an instantaneous power, because instantaneous power is instantaneous quantity which is varying with respect to time. even if at some instant of time your power delivered to the particular element is more than its capacity, more than its withstanding capacity, for a fraction of a second it can withstand. Okay, it will not burn immediately. Okay, but this average power, what we are calculating, this is very much important for us. Okay, this average power will actually determine how much power this element can withstand, or if you cross that limit, that element will immediately burn. So that information we can get from this average power. Okay, right. So we'll see what is this average power is called as. Okay, for finding the average value of instantaneous power, no doubt it comes from instantaneous power. Okay, we are simply integrating over a time period to get this average power. Right, right. So instantaneous power is always denoted with small p with a function of time. Average power is always denoted with a capital letter P, as you have shown here. Okay, right. So P of t is instantaneous power, and for the general interval of time t varying from t1 to t2, the average power denoted by P is given as this one. That means you are just integrating your instantaneous power between two time limits. Okay, so that's how you are going to calculate the average power given by this expression. P is equals to 1 by t2 minus t1 integral t1 to t p of t with respect to dt. This is how you are going to calculate the average power. Okay, and average power is always denoted with capital letter P. Okay, so this average power is not a function of time, but it depends on the time intervals t1 and t2. Okay, because we are integrating between these two time limits. Okay, so this is the basic information regarding instantaneous power and the average power terminologies, and how to calculate the average power. This is your expression. Okay, between two time limits you are going to integrate. So if you are considering a sinusoidal function, okay, so I will calculate the average power, instantaneous power, and then I will calculate the average power, and we'll see that what is that. Okay, so we have already seen, for obtaining a general result of sinusoidal steady state, we have assumed two general expressions. If you see from starting, your voltage, you have taken a general expression which is V of t is equals to Vm cos of omega t plus theta. Okay, some phase angle theta you have considered, assuming that your voltage has some phase angle. If it is not there, then theta will be equals to 0. So this is your general expression for voltage, and the corresponding expected current response in any circuit is given in this fashion: Im cos of omega t plus phi. Okay, these are two general expressions which I have considered. Okay, so what will be the instantaneous power? Now let's say this much, this is the voltage delivered from the source, or it is flowing into your circuit. So the voltage expression is there, and the current which is flowing into the circuit expression is also there. Okay, so how to calculate instantaneous power now? P of t is simply a product of V of t into I of t. So that I have written here: Vm Im into cos of omega t plus theta into cos of omega t plus phi. Is it clear to everyone?
Sir, one doubt.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you said something about the limit, no, sir? Limit
Hmm.
of resistor or inductor, the maximum amount it can face, no, sir?
Hmm.
Sir, will that maximum amount that can hold will be dependent on average power or instantaneous power, sir?
It will depend on average power only. Okay, so that's why average power is more important than the instantaneous power for us. Okay, if you, I mean, if you go forward in next slides, you will understand that the average power is more critical. So when you, it's basically comes from RMS value. If you think you will understand in future. Okay, it basically comes from the RMS value of voltage and RMS value of current. You will
Sir,
understand that.
can we call it as a maximum value that element can hold, sir?
Yeah. So when you design a circuit, you have to choose one resistor, let's say. Okay. Right. So that resistor, some R value they will give you. Okay. Based on the circuit, you are going to apply some amount of voltage. Okay. Circuit will give you some amount of voltage, and R value of resistor is actually designed. Okay. So from that you can calculate the average power and instantaneous power. Okay. So some voltage is coming from the circuit. Let's say V square divided by R is your power. Okay. So that much power is going to come and deposited in your resistor. So you have to know that this much power this resistor can withstand or not. In market, different resistors are available. 0.5 ohms, 10 watts. 0.5 ohms, 100 watts. Both are available. Okay. So its value is fixed. R value is fixed. Okay, for resistor, but it can withstand more power. These kind of different elements are available. So when you are designing a circuit, you have to first study, let's say, Thevenin's theorem you are considering. What is the concept of Thevenin's theorem? You will remove the resistor first. Okay,
So
load
required for
resistor. So you are trying to choose what resistor I have to place now there. Okay, you are trying to decide. Okay, so the Thevenin's equivalent circuit is there, and the voltage which is coming to across the resistor is known to you. Now you have to choose different power values of resistor. Same resistor value, let's say 0.5 ohms only. Okay, but the withstanding capacity of power is different. Those are available in market. Okay, now you know the voltage which is coming from the equivalent circuit, that is part A. Okay, then you have to choose a proper value of resistor and proper power rating. So then that will be fitted in that network. Okay, so if you talk about whether it depends on instantaneous power or average power, it is average power is more important for us, because average power is directly linked to the heat which was generated in the resistor. Okay,
yes, sir.
one second. Is it clear? So average power is directly related to the heat which was generated in the resistor. Okay, so heat will will result in burning of your resistor. Okay, right. So average power is more important for us when you are designing any circuit, more than the instantaneous power. Okay, if your instantaneous power suddenly shoots up to 2 or 3 times, your nothing will happen to your resistor. Okay, but if you're crossing your average power limit to a higher level, then there is a good chance that resistor can burn and your circuit can also burn. Okay.
Yes,
You
sir.
you are understanding, no? Once we go forward, you will understand that your power will actually depend on RMS value, and RMS value is basically from the circuit parameters you will get. Okay, so that we will understand. Okay, so if you ask, it's more average power. It depends on average power, and average power will determine how much power it can withstand. So accordingly, you have to choose the element. Okay,
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay, so P of t, instantaneous power, is given by this expression Vm Im into cos of omega t plus theta into cos of omega t plus phi. Okay, now we will, so please try to solve this P of t expression is there, right? So you have cos a cos b function, something like that. So try to you know that na, 2 cos a cos b, cos a plus b plus cos a minus b equals to 2 cos a cos b, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you multiply this one with 2 in the numerator and denominator, this P of t expression, and use that formula to break into two terms. You are understanding, na? Vm
Yes, sir.
Im, you multiply this numerator and denominator with 2, so you will get Vm Im whole by 2 into 2 cos of omega t plus theta into cos of omega t minus theta, right? So cos a plus b plus cos a minus b, you try to apply that and try to break into two parts this expression.
Yes, sir. Sir, this is equal to P
cos
of t
2
equal
omega
to
t
Vm
plus theta plus phi plus cos theta minus phi.
theta minus pi by 2.
Cos 2 omega t plus theta plus phi plus cos theta minus phi.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So everyone tried this or not? It's
Yes,
simply
sir.
you are breaking this into two terms. That's all. Okay. So so it's simple mathematics. I hope everyone should be able to do that. Okay. Let's see that. Okay, so this still it is a function of time only. P of t instantaneous power we are calculating. So if you break into that format, you are going to get this kind of expression, as one of your friend has already told. So Vm Im by 2 into cos of theta minus phi plus cos of 2 into omega t plus theta plus phi. Okay, so if you observe these two terms, the first term is depending on current or not, depending on time or not.
No, sir.
Oh, sorry. Constant.
So first term is constant. Okay, Vm is constant, Im is constant, theta is already constant, and phi is also constant. So first term is constant, but second term is depending on time or not.
Yes, sir.
Depending,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so what could be the time period for the second term? I mean, it will be same as your voltage time period, or it will be something different. If you see
It's a
here,
double.
your double. Okay, so if you see here, your time period or your frequency for voltage is omega t or omega. Okay, but if you see the second term, you are getting a frequency of 2 omega. Okay, right. So frequency is double and time period is half. Correct. So that means you have two terms. One is constant, which is not a function of time or which is not depending on time, and you have one more term which is depending on time, and the time period is also observed to be half of the your source voltage time period. Okay, so the first term is a constant and is independent of time, and second term is a cosine function and its period is t by 2. Okay, now if in case I calculate the average value of this instantaneous power given here, okay, right, what could be that average value? You are understanding now? You are trying to calculate the average value over one time period. That means between 0 to time t. Okay, so how to calculate the average power for this one? Average power capital P is
Integral
equals
of
to
P of t by T2 minus T1, sir.
Integration of
yeah
0
1 by capital T integral 0 to capital T P of t with respect to dt. So that you have to do. That means you are integrating over one complete time period. Okay, right. So average power is actually integration of your instantaneous power over one complete time period. That is called as average power. Okay, we are integrating over one complete time period. If you do that, you will understand that this function, that is first term, is not going to be affected because it is not a function of time. But the second term will be equal to what value?
0.
0, sir.
0. Second term will be equals to 0. Right. You are integrating between 0 to t time limits. If you do integration, obviously this will convert into a sine function, and sine, I mean maybe 4 pi minus sine 0 you will get. Okay, so you will get finally this value second term to be 0. Okay, right. So the average value of second term is 0 over the time period t or t by 2. Thus the average power is given as first term, which is equals to first term. P is equals to 1 by 2 Vm Im into cos of theta minus phi. That means for any circuit, okay, it may consist of resistor, inductor, and capacitor, any combination. Okay, I am taking the voltage which was delivered into the circuit. The voltage here is voltage which was coming from the source and flowing into the circuit. I have taken a general expression, you have already seen, cos of omega t plus theta. And I have taken a general expression for current, which is delivered from the source and flowing into the circuit. Okay, right, that current I have taken, right, and I have taken calculated P of t instantaneous power and then integrated over one time period. I observe that it has only one constant value. That means 1 by 2 Vm Im into cos of theta minus phi. Okay, so the average power over one time period is observed to be a constant value. It is not going to depend upon time. Okay, however, instantaneous power has two terms. One is function of time, another one is constant. Okay, so instantaneous power is varying with respect to time, but your average power remains constant. Okay, so this is one conclusion we can see from this. This from this study. Okay, so how much time is there for us? So time is up. Okay, so I will not discuss this problem, but till now we have discussed what is called as average power and instantaneous power. Okay, if you want, you can note down this problem and try to solve this for next class. Okay, anyway, we'll discuss this in the next class. Okay, so what they're asking is, given the time domain voltage, some expression they are given, and find both the average power and expression for the instantaneous power. Okay, and the corresponding power voltage is given and the applied impedance is also given. Okay, so for this circuit they are asking us to find out the instantaneous power and as well as average power also. Okay, right. So if you are interested, you can try to solve this. Anyway, we'll discuss this problem in the next class. So that's it for today. So we'll discuss, we'll meet again on Thursday. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, then you can leave now. Thank you, all of you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any doubt?
Yes, sir. One doubt.
Okay. So others can leave. If you're interested, you can stay. Otherwise, you can leave. Okay. So what is your doubt?
Sir, previous slide, sir. Last one.
This one? Before this?
Yes, sir.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. Average power.
Yeah.
Next slide, sir.
Next slide you want?
Yes, sir.
This slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Okay.
if we, sir, calculate the average power, then 0 to t is the time period of Im current or power.
0 to t is the time period of current or voltage. Okay. If you see here, okay, what does this say? What is the time period of this v of t? Can you say?
Sir,
It,
0 to
it,
t.
it depends on omega. Okay. So omega is basically 2 into pi into f. Okay. Okay. Right. So that f is 1 by t, 1 by capital T. You are understanding, no? So that means you have a voltage of, let's say, 50 hertz. Okay, source. Okay, so that f is 50 and your time period for this voltage will be t is equals to 1 by f. That means 1 by 50, so that will be equal to 20 milliseconds. So time period t for this voltage which was shown here is, if I consider f is equals to 50 hertz, time period t is 20 milliseconds for voltage. For current also, the omega is same. So the time period for the current in any part of the circuit, okay, in any part of the circuit, we calculate the current, or any part of the circuit, you find out the voltage, okay, across any element. The time period is same. That is, if f is equals to 50 hertz, time period t is equals to 20 milliseconds. Okay, so this is called as time period for the circuit. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
When you calculate the power, it is given by this expression. Okay, then if you solve it, we are seeing that the power p of t, instantaneous power itself, has two terms. Okay, one term is a constant value, another term is a function of time. Okay, you have any doubt?
Sir, I want to know that in average power, when
Hmm.
we calculate average power,
Yeah.
then limit is 0 to t.
0 to t. Yeah,
Or
0 to t. You have to take the time period of your source voltage. That's all.
Okay.
Time period of your source voltage is 0 to t. You have to take that limit and you have to do the integration according to that. But in the present scenario, if you see that even if you take, I mean, you observe that your P of t is having a component which is having half the time period of your source voltage. Okay, it came like that. When you solve it, we observe that it has a constant value and a time varying quantity, and this time varying quantity has a time period which is half of your source voltage. We got it like that. That's all. Okay,
Okay.
because
Thank
you
you, sir.
have 2 omega. Okay. Okay then. Okay then. Fine. Thank you all of you.